I'm Capriato, the Service Aftermarkets podcast pioneer with the gold standard of aftermarket business podcasts. Join me for Aftermarket Insights as we advance the aftermarket. And as always, know that you'll learn just one thing. Find us on your favorite podcast listening app and remarkableresults.biz or on my YouTube channel. Hey everybody, Carm Capriato, good to have you here. Thank you so much for your listenership and for subscribing to our Carm Capriato YouTube channel. So appreciate that. We couldn't do it without you. And we also couldn't do this free each and every week without our great partners. You know, let's face it, your shop management system is the most critical tool in your shop. Napa Tracks will move your shop into the SMS fast lane with on-site training and 6 days a week support and local representation. Find Napa Tracks on the web at napatracs.com. And AutoFix Auto Shop Coaching will help you shift your gears and redefine success. Imagine your business not just meeting, but exceeding every goal. Talk to Chris at autoshopcoaching.com. And ready to optimize training with today's class? In just 5 minutes daily, boost knowledge, retention, and improve team performance. Start seeing results today. Join your peers at today'sclass.com. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and thanks. Hey, everyone. This is an episode that I have been wanting to do for so long, and sometimes I have to think that my brain waves are, like this Buffalo, Florida, like 1,200 miles, and Brin and I sometimes just connect on a cerebral wavelength. We did the episode recently. Oh my God, Brin, that was just so great. Just a few weeks back, shop owner reacts to his 360-degree review from his team. It was Town Hall Academy 380. And Brin locks me down at Vision and says, come here, I got an idea. We're done with that. And he goes, get Bill Haas and come on. He's my coach, Carm, 6 years now. And let's talk about what coaching is about, because Brin believes, like I do, and Bill, more of you need to be into coaching with some of the greatest coaches that we have in our industry, including Bill Haas, Haas Performance Consulting at haasperformanceconsulting.com. And Brin Klein is from Assured Auto Works in Melbourne, Florida. Hey, Brin.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hey, Bill.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Hey, Brin, what a beautiful home.
Yeah, thanks.
Now, that's funny that you say that, because I know it's a virtual background, but I will have to add this. I've been to Brin's home, and it is gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. Brin has a beautiful home in a beautiful area in Melbourne. I've been there. He's a gracious host. He and Sarah both, they're wonderful people, and Brin can be so proud of the home that he is providing for his family.
Well, absolutely. We're very fortunate to be in where we're at. We've been here about a year and a half, and I can honestly say I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Bill. So,
well,
Bill,
that's so interesting. Thank you so much, Brin. Here's the deal. When I've gotten to know over the last 9 years so many wonderful coaches, not only have they been on the show talking stuff with us, but it's just some of the private discussions on the importance that after the company gets fixed, one of the ultimate goals, maybe one of the first goals, is wealth building and security, financial security for the owner. In fact, it's their time, it's their assets, it's their money that continues to invest in their business. And there's nothing wrong with having a nice truck, having a nice car, having a nice cabin, having a nice boat, whatever, as long as you can pay your bills, right, Bill? Because, hey, Bill, I want to have a new truck. Well, you can't pay your bills. Let's work on that first. Right. And I don't know if that was your case at all, Brin, but why were you interested in coaching?
Well, even before I opened our shop a little over 14 years ago, I was familiar with the idea of business coaches and consultants. I worked for Glenn's Tire in Melbourne, and he sent me to Baltimore for ATI's service advisor class a couple of times. And so that was kind of the first time I had an opportunity to learn about it. I'd say that's early 2000s. But when we opened our shop, I just assumed that they all worked exactly the same. I assumed that you had to have this 3 or 4 year contract. And I just wasn't interested in doing something that long term. But I felt like I attended conferences, I attended management training. I felt like I was participated in IATN discussions, shop management forum. I felt like I had a pretty good idea of how to run the shop. But after a few years of running the shop, I realized there's a little disconnect. I can attend classes and learn stuff that is certainly helpful, but I just kind of felt like if that I needed somebody to hold me accountable and just kind of help bridge the gap. There's one thing to understand where you should be. It's another thing to be able to discuss with somebody plans on how to get there. And I guess it was a little over 6 years ago. It's hard to believe it's been that long, but I actually approached you, Carm, if you recall this, but I thought that it would be cool to do like a before and after kind of thing. And of course, unfortunately, we didn't do the before, but here we are 6 years in. We can at least do that. And what's cool is listening to your show, I had a chance to really get to know, in my opinion, several coaches because you've had so many on. And the reason I chose Bill is I just felt from listening to the show, but also I really appreciated the stuff he did with generational understanding, like communications within different generations. And I just thought at the time, everybody just complained about how the different generations are. They just kind of complained about each other. And being able to see how much work Bill put into research and course development with that topic, I just felt that was kind of like a bonus point for me. And then again, hearing him on your show, I felt like he was a good fit. And that was one thing. It took me years to pull the trigger because as much as I realized the benefit of a coach, it's hard to see the value in it. Like you understand that you could benefit from it, but is it really going to pay off? Because it's kind of quite of a commitment, especially for folks that are starting off. And then the second part of it is my experience with any service provider is you're promised something initially, but then once you sign the line, it seems like you get this fast food approach. And I didn't want that. I wanted somebody that really paid attention to the industry and doesn't, understands that things aren't black and white and that there are, would be patient with me because I felt like one example is maybe long term we wanted to focus on more labor dollars and a little less on parts dollars just because of the way the motoring public and consumers operate with being able to see parts and stuff. That's just one example, and I just wanted somebody that could, instead of just, well, this is the way it is, having a conversation with me and doing whatever we needed to just kind of shift the spreadsheets so that we understood what our goals would be if we wanted to change something from the standard. And I know that was super long term, but that's where we're at. Or long-winded, I apologize.
No, boy, I took away so many great things, and one of them that I wrote down was no cookie cutter. You basically said, listen, don't come down here and tell me we're going to do A, then B, then C. Bill, you probably looked at Brin based on what he just said, a lot of stuff going around. You had to probably corral him, right? And say, oh, this guy he's going to be fun to lead and fun, but he's got to be able to, the accountability piece. Was he a good accountability partner, Bill?
I think honestly that's probably one of the biggest things that Brin has gotten out of the relationship is having that accountability partner. That idea that we're going to talk on Tuesday and Bill's going to call and we're going to have that meeting and there's stuff I committed to or said I would get done or that I would work on. And when we have that next meeting, Bill's going to want to know that got done or how far I've gotten or what I've accomplished. And I think for Brin, that's been a big part of it because like so many other business owners, there's a lot of stuff going on. I've got things to take care of. I got customers, I've got broken cars, I've got employees that can't come to work today, whatever. All that other stuff that I've been talking about with my coach becomes almost secondary, right? It just keeps dropping down the list until it's like, oh, wait, that meeting's tomorrow. I better be ready for that meeting. And that accountability, I think, is a huge part of what's helped Brin get to where he's gotten to today.
Absolutely. I'm like tears ready to fall down.
Then you should cry on this show because I will with you if we can get the emotions high. But guys, I can't tell you. I have the same problem, Bill. I don't have an accountability coach. I did when I first started podcasting. And I had to get things done if I was going to move my company forward. When I think about the A-list, Brin, I'll bet you every morning you start out with your A list and then things happen. But having Bill, who's hovering over your A list virtually in your mind, you move things around a bit because you know you got to move your business forward. And that's why you have yourself a coach. That's why the coaching relationship has been successful. I have to tell you, if maybe, Bill, to your point, if anything that we can do as a shop owner is to get that accountability partner. Yeah, we got to worry about labor rates and goal settings and personal strategies and support and motivation and personal development. But if I have that accountability partner that's waiting for me to do this one particular thing, and it doesn't get done till maybe the hour before or the day before, at least it gets done because you know
Right.
at least it gets done.
Right.
And wow, there's a piece of magic there.
Well, without that accountability partner, then there's always tomorrow. I'll get to it tomorrow. I've got to do this first, and I'll do that tomorrow. Right? That always gets very easy to push those things off or delay that. With that accountability partner, it's like, okay, it's going to be done, or I better have a damn good reason that it didn't get done. Somebody died or something serious, right? Yeah. I think the other thing, that Brin brought up that I think is extremely important, and I think this is something that people should look for. And, I'm not going to make this a commercial, but it's something that I'm very proud of, is the flexibility of working with a client to understand what it is they want to achieve and making sure we get there, and not coming with that cookie cutter. We do this and then this will happen and then we'll do that and this will happen. And it's just because that's not how business functions.
Hey, Bill, I love what you just said, but I got to ask a question. You said what he wants to get done, and I flipped that into his goals. Did Brin really know what his goals were in the beginning?
To a degree, but I don't think Brin really recognized the potential for what they would be capable of. I think some of the things that we brought to the table for Brin was the ability to look beyond tomorrow and look into next year and think about creating sales forecasting and what would have to happen and what kind of changes we need to make in order to get there, and look at budgeting. And like most business owners, we're just paying the bills. The bills come in and I write a check and pay the bill or whatever it is. I got a parts bill to pay. I got an insurance bill to pay. I got an electric bill to pay. And I just keep paying the bills. And if there's money in the bank account after I've paid all the bills, I feel pretty good about that, right? But one of the things that we brought to Brin was being able to budget and understand what are our costs going to be? How are our costs going to change? Are there any things I can do to control some of these costs, and understand that from a cost standpoint, what this business needs to generate in order to be where we want it to be, because most business owners don't ever budget.
I think the accountability piece coming back, I want to say too, I pitched this idea to Carm. It's not like Bill just mentioned he didn't want to make it a commercial. I just want anybody watching to know that's definitely not what's happening here. I feel like I had a story to tell that I think could help other folks that were in my position. Maybe you've been to management classes, you've heard about coaches, but just can't seem to really see it happening for you. But it's all about the long term. I mean, most shop owners are technicians turned shop owner. And so we're busy putting out fires every single day. It's hard to think about the future because you're so in the now and just trying to tread water, stay afloat kind of thing. So by forcing yourself to find somebody that you can rely on to just have conversations with, to help you see more long-term, to plan for long-term, that's what this is all about. And I'm thinking too, I'm not a numbers person, Bill. You mentioned just seeing the account, and even to this day, somewhat, that's kind of how I gauge things, other than the spreadsheets that he gives for me to fill out. I mean, but that's certainly helpful. But watching that bank account is that's kind of my thing. And the point I'm making there is that when you're choosing a coach, everybody's got strengths and weaknesses. And so Bill's strength is spreadsheets and numbers, and he can really show me like what we can tweak to kind of get to those goals from where we're at right now. What do we need to do, or what can we look at to help us get there? I see Bill as, I see him like as a family member now because it's been so long and I respect him so much. But I also see him as like a business partner that I don't have to share the profit with, though. You know what I mean? And partnerships are tough, right? They're like marriages, and a lot of times they don't work out. But you can own your own business, benefit from having somebody to kind of help in a way that a business partner would, kind of almost burden some of the thought process and the responsibilities by having a coach, like Bill. And so again, the other thing too is when you're choosing somebody that maybe is stronger in the areas that you're not. So maybe you're a real strong numbers person, but you need somebody that can help you in areas that you need improvement on. So I think that's important too to consider when you're choosing a coach.
I think that's a really important thing what Brent just shared. In addition to that, business partner also brings other perspectives, right? Any of us, we have our opinions that we've developed and, ways that we prefer to do things. But I think working with a coach also gives anyone the opportunity to get other perspectives, which I think opens up the mind to maybe there's not just one way to do this thing, or maybe I need to look beyond what I'm thinking is going to happen because maybe there's something else that I haven't considered yet that could impact what the results would be. And I think that's another important piece that a coach brings to relationships with business owners.
Guys, this last couple of minutes has been fabulous, I think, to help break this down. Let's tear apart the greatest excuse that we get when we talk to people. Is, listen, I really think your business needs a coach. I can't afford a coach. Although I'm treading water, I understand that. And every once in a while, I take a big gasp of air, and then I go under, and then I come back up, but I can't afford a coach. Did you ever think that, Brin? If you did or didn't, but let's try to crash that myth a little bit.
So I did think, like I mentioned early on in your business, hopefully you've kind of done your research and you have an idea of what kind of services you're going to provide, what kind of clients you want, and all of that stuff. Most of the time that does not happen, and myself included. Obviously, if you're starting from nothing, especially in situations where you're not buying an existing business, or like I said, you're starting from nothing, then things are different. You have to be flexible, but ultimately, to your point, you're hoping that business comes in, you're hoping that you can be profitable enough to pay the bills, and it is stressful. So it's hard for me to say, for somebody that's just barely treading water, I would encourage you to still seek out a coach for a couple of reasons. One of which is every coach that I know of is so compassionate and passionate about the industry. I'd be willing to bet you could probably get a few sessions pro bono, and just so that they can get an idea of the things that they can do to help you immediately to get to where not only are you going to be paying for their service right away, but being able to profit the business right away. And within a few sessions, I would imagine you could probably get to the point where you can definitely see an obvious benefit from it. But yes, Carm, I think for those situations, for shop owners that are just struggling, barely making ends meet, there's no doubt in my mind that they could benefit from a coach. But if you can't pay your bills at all, but anybody beyond that, anybody that's in the black, I guess you'd say, it's a no-brainer. I mean, it's hard when you're in the black, but you're not very profitable. Those are the types of situations where you definitely need to pull the trigger. I'm in way different position I am now financially than I was 5-6 years ago. So I feel very strong about the fact that you can't afford not to have a coach, I guess, in a lot of cases. And if it's a pride thing too, Carm, that comes up a lot, right? But pride thing, I just want anybody listening to know, like probably 99% of the successful shop owners that Carm has had on this show have had, either they still have coaches and consultants, or they have for quite a bit, and they would probably come on and say the same things, that they really owe a lot of their success to those relationships.
Boy, did he say a lot there, Bill. And I know you
Well,
want to say something about that, but it is all about the pride in the ego, and the individual has to be the one who wants to change. And I don't mean change in a drastic way, but become a better person than they currently are in all of these areas. Bill, I know you got a ton of things to say, but what's changed with Brin over all these years?
Oh, what's changed with Brin over all these years? I would say that, first of all, I don't know that this is a change, but this is something that I know about Brin that I think is really important. And that is Brin is a really good listener. So Brin is not one of these guys who doesn't come off as I'm a pretty smart guy, which he is. He doesn't make sure that how smart he is. Okay. And he's a good listener, because I find myself oftentimes with Brin where we can have a conversation, we'll have a discussion about something. At the moment, nothing's happening. And you can kind of get a sense from Brin, like he's hearing you, but he's not going to do that now. Now, whatever the reason is, now's not the time. But somewhere down the road, Brin will come back to the conversation. He'll go, I remember there was a time you told me that, and it comes right back, right? So I know he's a good listener, okay? I guess if there was probably one big change for Brin, it's probably that he's better at taking action today than he was when I first started working with him 6 years ago. 6 years ago, it would take Brin quite a while to get something to happen. He's much better about that now. He has compressed the amount of time it takes to go from idea to execution.
But was that time management, Brin, or was that total buy-in?
I think it's buy-in. It's probably time management. But as he's saying that, I'm thinking primarily, we were in the black, but it wasn't by much. I think the more profitable you become, it's just easier to spend that money to make the money. A lot of the changes, and some of it doesn't cost money to make the changes, but a lot of the changes that I feel like I'm quicker to make now are just because I feel like I can afford to make those changes. We still struggle with some of the labor rate increases that usually come every year. Bill has us work together on a budget, and we realize what we have to do to change labor rates or whatever. And
yeah, but just think,
still a little bit
you got a grand piano from that. Look in the picture. That is just a graphic, everyone.
The next thing I know, he'll be jumping out of airplanes. I don't know.
No doubt.
Okay, that's another story for a different day and time.
Hey, let's face it. Your shop management system is the single most important tool in your shop, period. Napa Trax has made selecting the right shop management system easy by offering the industry's best, most comprehensive SMS. Now, it all starts when a local representative meets with you to learn about your business and how you need to run it. After all, it's your shop, so it's your choice, and having local representation is a huge plus. Customizing Trax to your business, whether you're a one-person shop or a large multi-bay or multi-location company, a representative consults with you to help optimize your shop's workflow, efficiency, and profitability. Trax always has the flexibility to do business how you need to do it, which means it can also grow as your business grows. And unlike the other guys, we'll be there for you after installation with the best training and support in the business. Yes, a learning management system tailored to each role in your company. Simply put, Trax was designed and built for shop owners just like you. Visit us on the web at NapaTrax, that's NapaTracs.com. In the world of auto repair, every shop has its unique rhythm and challenges. At AutoFix Auto Shop Coaching, they understand that one size does not fit all. That's why we offer personalized business coaching, tailoring our advice to meet your shop's specific needs. Transform your operations with strategies and tools to streamline your workflow, reduce waste, and skyrocket productivity. And when it comes to the numbers, we've got you covered. Our financial management guidance helps you master your finances from cash flow to profit margins, ensuring your revenue grows stronger. Every day, AutoFix Auto Shop Coaching, empowering your shop to achieve more. Visit us at autoshopcoaching.com. Transform your team with today's class, where automotive training is easy, quick, and fun. Just 5 minutes a day on our app can eliminate hours of looking up forgotten information later. It's perfect for technicians, advisors, and managers alike. Keep critical knowledge fresh and top of mind, ensuring your team operates at peak efficiency. Today's class is impactful, accessible from anywhere, and a bit of fun too, and we're not talking about after-hours pizza either. For training that gets results, turn to todaysclass.com.
Carm, I think part of it, and Brin didn't touch on this, But I think part of it is just becoming more comfortable. Getting that confidence comes from doing something and getting the result you expected and going, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It didn't hurt as bad as I thought it was going to hurt. It didn't. And so as those things happen and you get more comfortable, you gain that confidence where it just gets more natural to do things as they should be happening.
Brin, did you ever think, where would I be today if I had not had a coach consultant and I didn't have Bill Haas in my world?
I don't know that I think of it in terms like that, but every time that I take the time and realize where I'm at, and I feel very blessed, I think about my relationship with Bill and how much he's helped us get to where we are. I guess I don't think about where I would be if I hadn't made that decision, but I can tell you, I probably wouldn't be a shop owner. I'd probably be doing something else, maybe a technician, a mobile diagnostic technicians for some other company or something like that. Just because even though now 6 years later, I'm not really a big business person. Obviously, it makes it easier to enjoy it when you're more successful.
Oh my God, that is a great point, Bill. He says, I'm not a big business person, because you were a technician. And no one says that you oh my God, I went to night school. I graduated from Harvard. I'm a business person and a technician. It's a perfect analogy as to why some of the best people in our entire industry had or continue to have a coach or consultant working with them. They just don't want to miss a thing, right, Bill?
So full disclosure, my biggest concern about Brin when we first got started, right? And honestly, so prior to Brin calling and broaching the subject of my coaching him, I didn't know Brin Klein. I knew of Brin Klein, and I knew of his reputation of being having his technical expertise. I knew of him as a mobile guy. I didn't even know he had brick and mortar. I knew he was a mobile guy, knew he was involved in this trained by techs thing. Yep. I think I had met Brin one other time, maybe a year or two prior at Vision with the trained by techs group. So my biggest concern when Brin called actually to talk about the opportunity to work with him was, this guy's too much of a tech. He's more tech than shop owner, than business owner. That was my biggest concern starting out with Brin, was whether he was serious about being a shop owner, a business owner, or if he was so involved in the tech side of this that this other stuff were we just going through the motions, or was this the real deal? Like he was going to be committed to, I want to improve my business and I want to create something that hasn't been done before. To his credit, he was.
I want to share something really quick, because I think hopefully other people have been in my position. I am not a business person. I don't really care about business. I'm a technician that bought a job because it's difficult to find a good shop to work for. And at least that's been my experience. A shop that wants to commit to being technically equipped and confident enough to handle modern automobiles, and that they want to be career minded instead of just showing up as a job and having employees just be stagnant. And so I started Assured Auto Works for that reason. But the reason, even 6 years ago and today, the reason that I still stay in business, obviously now being more successful makes it easier. But the reason that, my goals for Assured Auto Works are to be a good example to the motoring public about what automotive service should be like, an automotive service company, but also be an excellent example of what kind of company professional technicians or service advisors should work for. So that's really was my goals, and it wasn't really business driven. I love technology. I'd like to stay in technology, but I didn't have to be a business owner. I just needed to stay in technology, automotive technology. So when I talked to Bill, I did want somebody that was going to be flexible with me as well, because I knew that how technical I was and that my interest wasn't business. And I think I remember talking to him about that. Like, these are the things that I'm interested in. I like to share my experiences with other technicians by doing classes and things like that. I have interest outside of just running Assured Auto Works. I needed somebody that could hold me accountable, but also be flexible and understand that I had those passions. And Bill said, yeah, absolutely. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he agreed that we needed to feed my passion, but he would be able to help me kind of hone in and make sure that the shop's going to be doing what it needs to be doing to continue to be successful and continue to show my staff and my team what it's like to have a good place to work. And
Bill, did you have that you can do both moment with him?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because that's so true, right? Whether a big part of his passion is sharing with others and the technology, and he's so intrigued by what makes things work and how to understand how to make them work better when they haven't been working correctly, and yet create this environment and this culture, which he's done. When I look at the team that he has assembled at Assured Auto Works today, and the passion that these guys have for what they do, and that the love that they have for their leader, and that's what makes this all worthwhile.
Yeah, as a side note, in that 360, it took us like 45 minutes to find something. Just tell me something Brin can do to improve. That was just a great episode. I just loved it. It was like they adore you so much, but it was like pulling teeth to find, Cara, make sure they can tell me something I have to improve on. Anyway, we finally found one little thing. I don't know, maybe it was buy lunch on Fridays. I can't remember what it was.
I'll have so that we could do a 2.0 that would be more interesting. I came in like a jerk the next week.
Oh, good for you. Yes. Wait a minute. Brin brings up something so important. Maybe it was you, Bill, about I bought a job. Okay, I bought a job. Basically, people say, yeah, I started my business because I can't work for anyone. I can only work for myself. Can a individual with that attitude that you kind of had, Bill, have you seen a lot of people embrace coaching, knowing that even though I can only work for myself, I still need guidance and help? Tell me the things I don't know that I don't know.
Well, yeah, a lot of people have, and there's good reason for that, because that same person that says I can only work for myself finds out very fast that other people can't work for them either. It does take an enormous effort to move to a point of getting yourself in a position that other people will recognize what it is you're trying to accomplish and wanting to be part of that. And then you recognizing the changes you need to make in order to create that environment and that culture that people want to be a part of.
Bill, does coaching help people reduce stress because they need support and motivation to push them forward? Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of owners were technicians. They talked to cars. They didn't know how to talk to people. Is that a really key ingredient to help them?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, those are the calls. So like I mentioned earlier, Brin and I will meet every week. We have a certain day and a certain time. That's our time, and we're going to have our meeting. But those stressful situations don't necessarily come out in those meetings. Those stressful things are the things that happen where I get a text or a phone call, and it's a different day and a different time. It might even be on a Saturday where somebody's sitting around going, this has been working on me all week, and I've got to talk about it. And that's where we deal with a lot of the stress. A lot of the stress is dealt with outside of those meetings, like it's the crisis, the 911. Hey, my best tech just told me they want to leave, or that kind of thing. So yeah, that's a big part of what we do as well.
Well, I think it goes back to what I was saying. Like it feels like, you feel so alone. You're so fiercely independent and proud, but when you don't have a business partner, you feel very alone too in that process. So under those circumstances, if you have a business partner and it's working out for you, that's great. But when you don't, having a coach can help to relieve and alleviate some of that stress, because you have somebody to kind of talk to about it. You have an opportunity to hear their perspective on if there's anything you could have done differently, or if you did everything the way you should have done it, and you just need not to worry about it and just kind of move on. It just helps for sure. So again, just like having a business partner that still allows you to not have a business partner, I guess, but have somebody there so you don't feel so alone and handling the things that come up that cause stress.
Brin brought up a point about, listening to episodes we do with coaches. We have a collections page on our website. It's under resources. Go to collections, scroll up a little bit. You'll see an entire group of episodes, business coaches, consultants, trainers, and advice. There's just a ton, I don't know, 20 or 30 of them that I've put in there that I think you can just spend some time on that. But Brin, if I was going to hire a coach tomorrow, I picked up the phone and says, I know you have a coach. You've raved about it. You're successful with it. What kind of questions should I be asking of my coach, of a coach I may want to hire?
So before before Remarkable Results Radio, I was familiar with coaches, and I started to learn that there were independent coaches and they weren't all ATIs. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I started realizing what was out there. But I didn't, other than attending conferences, and that's primarily where you get management training. It doesn't usually come regional that often. If you go to conferences, you attend some training, maybe you've seen some webinars or something like that. It can be helpful, but I think before Remarkable Results, like being able to listen to the coaches that you've had on, being able to hear how they discuss certain industry problems and issues, and sharing their experiences with some of their clients, and being able to kind of gauge which one you feel like is going to work well with you. I think that's been immensely helpful. So you mentioning that resources is awesome. In fact, that's what I would tell people today is listening to this show, especially when there's coaches on, because you can really get a good idea of
Questions
type
that
of
you want to
person.
ask. Forget about the money. The money to me is irrelevant. It's just you're trying to connect personality, strategies, where they would start. Give me some ideas. Maybe you can help chime in, Bill, on what you think are critical things that you would love to know from a client or the client would want to know from you.
I guess I feel like I had a leg up because I pay attention to the industry. It's, like I mentioned with your show, but I want a coach that cares about the industry, and it's not necessarily about just the profit dollars. We need to be profitable, but we need to do so that leaves the industry a better place, as opposed to devaluing our services and the industry as a whole just for that dollar. That was huge for me. And again, finding somebody that was not so black and white. They understood that society changes, the business changes, and that we need to be able to pay attention and make some, adapt our business model to make sure that we're staying relevant and that we're not putting ourselves in a position where we're not even getting a market share anymore because we're just so stuck in an old system. Those are the things that meant so much to me. Somebody that's, I guess just cares about the industry's passionate about the industry and wants to do whatever they can to make it better. And again, not all driven by profit dollars.
I can't disagree with anything he's saying there. I mean, it's what's that relationship going to be like? We all have personalities, right? So to me, a lot of it would be finding out from others that have worked with somebody. What did you enjoy about it? What did they bring to the table? How long did it take to make that connection, right? And with some people, you just may not be the right fit. And that's okay too. But being able to recognize that. And, I think a lot of that comes from like watching the podcast. I think you learn a lot about all of us and our personalities and what drives us and what's most important to us. But I think as well, talking to either former or current clients that we're working with that can give a lot of great insight into what they're getting out of that relationship, things they liked as well as things they didn't like. I'm sure that everything I do is not perfect. Okay. I'm sure there's certain things that Brin looks at and goes, I wish he'd just stop talking about that. Right. That we can back off of that now. And that's okay. And I do that as a coach, right? I make notes of things that I know are off limits. I have my steno notebook for every client that I work with. And when we're talking about something that's really a pain point, and we've tried different ways of approaching it, when you get to the point of understanding that's just off limits, I make a note in my workbook that's off limits. We don't go there anymore. Okay. And that's okay. That's not a bad thing. But I think if you're really considering getting a coach, it's really about making sure that the things that are important to you are important to that coach. I really like what Brin said about the money aspect is because I don't think any of us should be just out there driving that you're not making enough money, you can make more money. And it's not all about money, because if you haven't created a business, it won't matter.
Bill, what would be just 2 questions that you would want to ask on that initial phone call of a potential client?
Well, there's 2 things that we bring out specifically, and I'll share with you what Brin's were. Okay. So the very first thing is we ask of any challenges that the coach should be aware of. Brin, can you remember what you told me?
Is it something we've already discussed, or is it something
Yeah, a little
altogether
bit.
new?
So at that point, so 6 years ago, this answer I don't think would change today. 6 years ago, Brin said, I'm involved in the industry quite a bit. And that was important for me to know that, right? Because Brin's involved in a lot. He does training. He's on the CTI staff. So he's regularly working with training programs. He does a lot of independent training. He's involved in the industry. He's on the ASA Mechanical Ops Committee. He serves as the president of the Florida Auto Care Alliance. I mean, they're involved right now trying to put their Accelerate event together. So he is involved in a lot of stuff. That's important for me to know, because that will be a challenge. How much of his time do I get? Because he's not only trying to run a business, he's involved in other things, some in the industry, some outside of the industry. So that to me is always a really important question, is for me to understand what challenges might be.
So is that a red flag or a green flag for you, or a combination?
It's just knowledge.
Okay, cool.
Just knowledge. The second question is that I want them to describe what they expect to get out of us working together. So here's what Brin told me 6 years ago. Brin said, I hope to have a mentor that can help me and my company reach our full potential. My main goal is to have a successful business that has a wonderful team that love their careers and love working for Team Assured Auto Works. I would love this team to run the daily operations so that I can allot some time towards helping others in and out of the industry. I need to learn how to be a CEO, but to have my business maintain a small family independent feel that never wavers from doing the right thing every time. I knew I could work with that guy.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
Wow. I'm kind of sitting here in awe of, number one, you had written that down. You knew it verbatim, Bill, somehow. And that Brin, you almost were like the ideal client.
Well, I think it's cool that like my goals are the same. And I feel like the last 6 years, everything that we've done has helped me to be more comfortable doing those things.
Nothing like setting you straight, Bill. I mean, you knew exactly what he wanted.
I can remember Brin had 2 employees, and today he's got 4 employees. As anybody has come onto this team, they didn't change the team. They joined the team. This is, and I think everybody saw this. If you saw the podcast that they did with the 360 review, you could see this team and what a solid group they are, right? I've been to the shop. I've been there. So I've seen these guys in action. I've seen the interaction between them, each other, between them and customers, and it's like, what a wonderful place. What a wonderful place. And really, like, the one thing that Brin said in that was that he wanted to be the CEO, but he didn't want to be corporate, did he? He wanted to be the CEO. I want to know how I need to act to run this organization, but I don't want to lose the feel of being a small family independent business.
Wow. Actually, I think this episode has gone beyond my expectations. And I think there's about every 5 minutes, there has been a huge takeaway here, especially this ending part. I just so appreciate that. I think this is a great end. We could go on further and further and just, if you will, just keep adding gas to the fire, because this was one heck of an episode. And I think we covered what we intended to. Well, Brin, thank you so much for bringing this on and for Bill wanting to come on and chat with Brin and expose, in my particular perspective, some very private and personal things that you each have shared with each other. It helped guide you, Bill. It allowed you to have the expectations to see if you were getting from Bill what you were looking for. Brin, great stuff.
He's a
I
great
wanted to-
friend. I appreciate his friendship. He's a wonderful guy.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say. 'Cause I feel the same way. I feel, like I said earlier, I feel like you're like family to me. So I appreciate everything you've done for us through this last 6 years. But one last thing I meant to say earlier, and I just kind of lost my frame of thought. When I was looking to hire Bill, I did interview a few coaches, and just having that conversation with 2 or 3, you pick up a lot. And kind of to your point, Carm, as far as what I would tell shop owners as far as how to find, having that conversation, are they good listeners? How did that conversation go? Did they respond well to your concerns and what you want to accomplish? At the time, usually all of the commitments that I make with the company back then, because it wasn't like something that I felt super passionate about, is owning this company. Again, I'm not a very business oriented person. I really was focused on technology. So when I did commit in the company, it was always followed lease renewals. So if I was coming up on an end of a lease, it was decision time. Did I want to walk away and do something else? Or did I want to re-sign that lease? Once I re-signed that lease, then I've got 2 or 3 more years here. Let's go ahead and do some things. And that's kind of how close I have been to stepping away from this. And I know that there are shop owners out there that are in that position. And when I hired Bill, it was right after just signing a lease and making a decision. We're going to go for it. And this is probably 3rd or 4th lease in. It's not like it was the first year or 2. I just wanted to share that. That's how close it was, how close I've been to walking away. Kind of one of the catalysts, I guess, for making that decision is just deciding to commit to the business. Maybe it's not lease renewals for you. Maybe it's something else, but just something to consider.
I love it. Lease insurance, hire a coach.
I got to put that into my marketing. I never considered that.
So great. Bill Haas Performance Consulting, Brin Klein, Assured Motorworks, Melbourne, Florida. Thank you both so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.